thank you for being here. I think we are all excited to be here. And while the world is now grappling with what's happening with Silicon Valley Bank and Credit Suisse and funding winters, I think the large question that e-commerce today is thinking that how are we going to deliver that stellar performance, right? We all know the kind of growth that everybody is projecting for e-commerce, but how are the marketers today thinking when we break this problem into various silos, right? So thank you for your time. I'll open the floor by asking the panelists the first question: that what is that one trend that you are witnessing in terms of consumer behavior, right? Because that is the epitome of the entire strategy that we marketers make, right? So what is that one thing that has changed? And all of you have been in the industry for over 10 years, right? So vis-a-vis, let's say 5 years back to today, and what are we seeing that is going to change in the next 12 to 24 months?
So I think it's fair to say that in the last 10 years, the industry has exploded. While e-commerce was very nascent 10 years back, today it's fairly mainstream. Adoption has sort of increased, penetration has increased. So while the trends can be very many, depending on the kind of e-commerce, whether it's a e-commerce marketplace, it's quick commerce, so on and so forth. I think a couple of things that sort of stand out, at least in Tara Click Luxury that I work on. Um, One big trend that we're seeing is and we're seeing a very fair dispersion of wealth across the country. So we're not just seeing. One would assume that the wealth is sort of centered around Metro Tier One, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing about close to 40% of our revenue coming in from Tier 2 to Tier 4 markets, and we're seeing much faster growth in Tier 2 to Tier 4 markets, especially across high value AOVs and high value ASP categories. We also don't see too much of a difference in AOV, ASPs, etc., from the Tier 2 to Tier 4 markets. So for us, at least, it's fair to say that the next set of growth is going to come from maybe Tier 2 to Tier 4 markets, while metro markets will continue to drive higher penetration. And I think that's one big consumer trend, because when we would have started about, e-commerce would have taken off about 10 years back, and we wouldn't have seen that kind of a consumer behavior. But today we're seeing that shift. There is a lot of, and that's really what e-commerce has done, right? It's given a huge amount of accessibility. So, in my opinion, at least one big consumer trend that I'm seeing today is beyond the categories that we're selling, is the kind of consumers who are sort of interacting and engaging with us.
Shinaj, Zepto has changed I would say that you guys have created a new need in minds of customers, right? I think now everybody wants everything in 10 minutes. So you have spoiled us as consumers. How are you seeing shift in, expanding over next 24 months with the similar USP that you have as for the business?
Sure. So we believe in being present across cities where we can definitely delight the customers, right? So that's the reason why we are not present across, say, 20 plus cities today. We are limited to 10 cities. So a very core piece of Zepto experience is the delight which a customer gets of finding something which would have been probably been inconvenient for the customer to go get that or even find at a nearby place, right? So we want to ensure that we are able to like give the same experience to the customers across different cities, and along with that we also want to ensure that we get it right. Today you can find about 5,000 plus products on Zepto. I'm sure like you guys would have not explored so much on Zepto, right? So we are not in the game of speed, right? We believe in getting the right consumer experience. We get in getting the assortment right and at the right price. So this is what we kind of maximize upon, and that's why like we are not very focused on very high expansion, but we want to focus slowly, steadily, and at the right pace, keeping things in mind. And next 24 months, right, for us are largely going to be about moving into different cities for sure, but getting deeper into different categories. Like we recently launched Zepto Cafe. I suggest folks who are based out of Bombay, please do give it a shot. It is our latest category, and we deliver you in 10 minutes. So that's our promise, which we want to stick to. Yeah.
Mats, what about you? You are obviously not focused on one organization or one business model, right? As far as e-commerce goes, you talk to clients across e-commerce, across categories, right? How are you foreseeing this shift in the coming 12 to 24 months on how the businesses, e-commerce businesses, are going to change their strategy with one thing, keeping in mind how the consumer trend is changing?
Thank you. So maybe for the ones that don't know Ravix, in terms of context, we are a programmatic DSP focusing on mobile advertising for performance. And Tata Click and Zepto are, for example, typical customers of ours, and we help on the communication. No? So for us, we are kind of an extension. Basically, there's a good product, there's a good service, there's a good offering, and we try to bring it out. And in the course of doing so, we are looking at a lot of data points. No? So in terms of, for example, we talked about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, how to expand. We can see this in the data as well, or we are using this data to understand how we can drive profitability for our clients. Because when we talk about trends for our clients these days, it's all about profitability. Of course, there's been changes in the market, higher interest rates, funding is drying up, runways are getting shorter. So profitability is very, very important. And our job, one of our key metrics is that we run the marketing campaigns, the communication in a very efficient way. No? So we need to look deeper into data. We need to understand better what drives consumers. Where can we be incremental as well, especially in the marketing campaigns? Are we just driving something that would have happened anyways, or can we really change outcomes? No? And improving this communication in the course of doing so is very, very important.
Moha, you mentioned about the kind of wealth that you are witnessing across the length and breadth of the country. So coming to the India versus Bharat, which is I think the big thing that everybody is asking, the e-commerce, right? Where will the next leg of growth will come from, right? So any thoughts on how the luxury space, which is Tata Click into, right? How are you witnessing getting into tier 2? Is the customer looking at it differently? Is the customer different, or the brand is talking in the similar way with India versus Bharat?
Very interesting question. So the way we are looking at it is the kind that I will split it into two parts, right? So one is in terms of messaging and communication and how are we able to sort of cater to their need states. At a platform level, there is a certain strategy we follow in terms of what we call slow commerce, in terms of building brand experiences, differentiation, etc. So, because we're anyway talking to a very niche audience segment, whether it's India, whether it's Bharat, put together, we're only targeting maybe top 1 to 3 million households of the country, including tier 2 to tier 4 markets, right? So, at a communication or a platform strategy level, not much changes. However, there may be slight variations in terms of the kind of categories that is bought, the kind of assortment that is bought in tier 2 to tier 4 markets versus metro tier 1. And there we bring in a lot of differentiation, right? At a platform promise level, brand promise level, brand experience level, brand service level, it's the same across the country. But where we bring in a lot of differentiation is the kind of assortment, the kind of the kind of categories that sort of get surfaced. So when we look at data points, we are also sure of what kind of categories are most likely to take off in these markets, what kind of brands in certain categories are perhaps likely to take off in these markets, and then we sort of use those signals to build the right kind of models, etc. So that we're able to not only fulfill at a brand promise level, but also be very relevant to customers, be it Bharat versus metro tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, etc. The beauty of it is while we've seen some variation in terms of brands that are bought or in terms of assortment, but we've not seen too much of a variation in terms of AOVs, ASPs, price points. So that's been quite encouraging to know that our strategy is sort of playing out the way we wanted to sort of play out at this point of time. Will it change? Maybe. We're also seeing, and I'll give you some examples. We're also seeing some very very high AOV items sort of take off in some of these tier 2 to tier 4 markets, right? For instance, we launched fitness as a category a couple of months back. We've had some orders with 2 lakhs plus from some of these smaller tier 2, tier 3 pockets. And that's very, very encouraging to know that that we're able to reach out to the right kind of audiences. So we're sort of playing this balancing act on brand promise versus the right kind of assortment to drive future growth.
Shanj, your views on how are you looking at growth coming from tier 2 cities?
So definitely, the customers across cities, right? There's not a very different experience which customers expect, right? Today, when we speak to a lot of people where Zepto is not present, right? We get a lot of queries that when are you launching? People are as excited as a tier one city, right? And no longer that's the differentiation between a metro, a T1, or a tier two or tier three city, right? As Mahua mentioned, that there's a lot of this distribution across all cities, and people are always there, right? With remote working, we have seen a lot of people move into different cities, right? So the expectation across customers is that we are going to get. Why are you differentiating? Because we are in a tier two city, right?
Sure.
For instance, tier two cities didn't had a single day delivery on most of the e-commerce portals, right? Today they have, and that's the reason why brands are also starting to understand, okay, that tier two cities also are interested in these kind of services and are now slowly shifting towards services which are more convenience focused rather than value focused, right? Going in, a marketer would always think, okay, tier 2, tier 3, the media would be cheap, let's do probably low ASP products, right? And that's the brief, I think, which we all have kind of given, right? We are guilty of giving that brief, right? When we go to our friends like March, right? We like, okay, I'd give you a different feed. Can you treat tier 2 separately? Like that would be low ASP focused, and tier 1 should be more metro premium, right? We have all done that. But if you look at data, right, and it's pretty interesting. And if you look at data, you'd understand, okay, that probably was a wrong input which you as a marketer have given, right? And the machines can teach you a lot more than anyone else.
Yeah. Mats, I want to understand from you on how e-commerce today is looking at acquisition versus retention, because I hear a lot of e-commerce saying that now we want to only focus on, let's say, 1 million, 2 million users only, because that's where my growth is coming, right? How are you seeing the shift in from acquisition to retention? Is there a focus, or are we still in that mad run to just acquire customers?
Yes, so that's a very important question because in the course of the changing of the macroeconomic environment, a lot of advertisers, the metrics change, right? So it's all about, okay, how can I get new clients and really grow incrementally? So the thought about incrementality is get more clients first. But of course, that's not the whole story. You have to retain your existing clients. Everything is a very competitive space. You have to increase basket sizes. So we talked about, okay, what is the offering? What type of feed in terms of what type of products am I showing to which audience? And the good thing is we have this fully automated. So the data points, like for example, should luxury products be pitched to people anywhere, basically, we act automatically on these data points. But I think the story is a little bit larger. When we talk about acquisition retention, what is the branding part as well, especially for luxury goods, but also for 10-minute delivery, for example. No? So I think branding plays a more important role. We've named it like performance branding. And there are a few international examples, like Airbnb, for example. They are famous with their own case study. They said we cut down on performance, we only did branding, and it worked out very well for us. But they measured it throughout 12 months. So I'm not sure if you want to measure whether 12 months and then say, did it work, did it not work? So we have to find a balance here between branding and performance. No? And we try to do this by making the right propositions to our advertisers on how can they acquire. So the really awareness, how do I go from awareness to acquisition? What is acquisition? Is it the app landed on the phone, on the device? Or was there a first transaction, for example? Was there real engagement? No? And retention continues to be extremely important, and we always remind our clients also about this. But it's a more challenging, let's say, approach, maybe also within the advertisers. They're struggling to make decisions where to move budgets to. And we try to help them with data, with A/B testing, and more vernacular advertising as well to ensure that it's relevant. Yeah.
Throwing the...
I think marketeers have been very focused on acquisition, right? And kind of we have treated retention as like P2, P3, P4, right? Like let's do some CRM for the customers who are already on board. Why spend money, right? That's a fair approach. I mean, if you look at profitability being P0, right? And if you look at top down, when you prioritize, you'd say, okay, let's not spend money after people who are already coming on the platform, right? That's true. That makes sense as well. But let's flip it. Would you want to introduce a better category to these customers who are coming and transacting with you, right? So acquisition and retention both are a flywheel, and you cannot let only one side of the wheel work. So you have to ensure that you're acquiring good quality customers, keep cutting down on bad quality customers who are coming on board, or probably if you're acquiring in a geo where you don't service so well, right? You might not want to acquire those customers. At the same point in time, retention has to be at P0, and acquisition plus retention has to be at P0. There's no like one way route of saying that, okay, let's not acquire, let's put all the money to retain customers, or say, let's just put all the money to acquire customers.
No, I agree, and I think there's a shift that is happening. Even how the teams are getting built within the orgs now. Earlier, it used to be only people who are doing performance marketing, right? Retention as a play has come up very recently because we realize the kind of profitability that it gives. And my next question will be to both of you, right? Moa, you handle very high end brands, right? Your AOV would be, I would say, upward of 50K, right? Whereas Shreyansh, for you, it will be like a day-to-day items, right? So retention plays very different for both of you, right? For Zepto, I would say retention would be 12 hours because I order twice a day, right? So yeah, so what are the challenges and what are the opportunities, right, that both of you are seeing with such diverse kind of categories?
Okay. So I think the world's moving on from growth at all costs to growing sustainably and growing profitably both in terms of acquisition and retention. So while with acquisition also we are going deeper, this whole reach versus depth has been debated long and hard. And of course, it will work differently for sort of different set of brands and different brands in different growth and life stages. But for us at this point of time, we're looking at depth versus reach because we're saying that we want to only target certain cohort of customers who we believe can help us grow profitably. Likewise, retention becomes really important and all the more difficult in a category like ours because we're a high AOV category and a highly discretionary category. Unlike a Zepto or a quick commerce marketplace, my customer is not coming back twice a day. My customer will come back once in a
You
couple of
wish,
months.
yeah.
I wish. My customer will come back once a couple of months, but that's the challenge, right? And therefore, we are sort of working at multiple levels to try and see, how are we able to deploy sharper cohorting strategies, right? In terms of the same, M1 user, M2 user, M3 user, M6 plus user, etc. How are we able to continuously engage with them? We're trying to keep that conversation lines open with them. We're trying to build hyper personalization for that because it's first party audience data. So we are using signals to be able to have more meaningful, engaging conversations with them. We're deploying a lot of editorial strategies to be able to increase engagement with that user cohort so that we're still sticky, whether they're making a purchase today or not, right? The second thing is what I call the Pareto's rule. It's very interesting that a small segment of consumers will give you the highest share of revenue, right? Very interestingly, a couple of days back, I was looking at a Bloom report, and this is a little mind-boggling. It says that 1% of Indians have taken 45% of flights. So it's mind-boggling data. 1% of Indians account for 22% of the country's income. So deploying Pareto's rule, an 80-20 rule at play, wherein, and it's always existed, it becomes even more critical in a category like ours, wherein we go deep, start looking deeper, saying that which is our most, relevant set of customers who can drive that 80% growth for us or 80% revenue for us, and what can we do differentially for them. We don't ignore. So the second part of retention will be that we don't, for that most promising cohort of customers, what can I do differentially? Can I offer differential packages to them, differential experiences for them, differential discounting for them, right? So for that cohort of audience, what can I do over and above to make them feel more special, to make it more sticky? So for us, acquisition retention is saying, just summarizing, go depth versus reach. Focus, focus on driving engagement and repeats from your existing users. Double click on the most promising cohort of customers with differential benefits and differential, how can you make the brand experience even better for them? Can we differentially do things for them? So I think that's really how we are looking at retention. But now more than ever, retention becomes even more important because in a category like ours, we are seeing great LTVs coming in from customers who stayed with us over a period of time. Also, luxury is a niche category. The cost of acquisition will always be higher than mass categories. So if you're not able to drive higher LTV, then it is the unit economics don't make sense. So now more than ever, we're doubling down on retention to see what can we do differentially for our customers.
Coming to unit economics, I want to know from you, Shreyansh. I'm sure the world wants to know that what are the unit economics for you when you have like, I don't know how many dark stores and you're delivering every 10 minutes. Yeah.
No, I think we are out of time.
Yeah, that's a secret sauce he doesn't want to share, right?
Oh, absolutely. Grocery as a business, right? It is definitely a low margin business, right? Everyone knows that. And it is an omnipresent business, right? Like you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 shops which are like very near to your home, right? You could go and pick it up. Like we try and make people lazy for sure. But it is difficult. It is a very difficult place where to make money because there's huge cost which is involved in delivering to the customers, and the experience which we want to deliver is also, of course, we don't compromise on quality of the products which we sell on our platform, right? We don't compromise on the safety of our rider partners. We don't compromise on anything else. So profitability from angle, like a couple of stores are already profitable, and we are making money on those stores already, and it's just about a time when we acquire enough number of customers in a proximity, and those customers again try and order more and more frequently. Like you do 2 orders a day, we would probably want you to do 4 orders a day. And the moment we get the right set of customers in a vicinity, we start making money. So it's important to understand your customers better, right? How can I move that 2 orders per day, 2 or 3 orders per day? The Pareto is natural to exist everywhere, right? But it is very difficult to move the Pareto from bottom. You cannot, right? As much as you try, you would not be able to do that. So the idea is like we would want to understand our customers even better. What is the category which we should be launching next? Like we just brought in beauty as a category, and on the face of it doesn't seem like a 10-minute delivery use case for beauty, right? But it worked really well for us. So it's all about knowing your customers and bringing in the right, procuring in the right assortment. Like today we have about 5,000 plus products which you can order, and we deliver it in 10 minutes. Now I can add like 5,000 more products, but it might not make sense from a customer's lens, right? So it is all about knowing your customers well and getting in more and more good quality customers.
I think I'll use the last 3-4 minutes to open the floor. If there are any questions from either of the panelists that you want to ask.
Hey, hi. Just wanted to check on like you were mentioning, moving the Pareto from bottom. So what exactly is this and what do you mean by that?
Okay. So Pareto is like simple, right? Like 80%, say let's GMV for instance, in e-commerce business, 80% GMV coming in from 20% of your customers. Makes sense. Those 20% of the customers are not magically going to like keep adding on to your entire acquired base. Let's take an example. Now there are 2 things. Like one, you could magically figure out if 1% of India, right? That because numerator denominator again brings in a lot of math there, right? We are a very large country, so our 1% is like probably equal to multiple countries put together. So that being said, like you have to ensure how can you move people from the bottom of the Pareto and get the AOV up, the LTV up, the frequencies up, right? And that would not happen organically. That is never going to happen, right? It is certain efforts which you'd have to do in understanding like where is your customer shopping. For instance, Zepto, right? today I'd have to understand, like, are there 4 more use cases which I can solve, right? Today we deliver a lot of products, right, including cigarettes, for instance. So we do deliver that, but a lot of people don't know that we are delivering this as well, right? And like diapers, for instance, a lot of people would order diaper. I, being a parent, like I used to, like, when I was not with Zepto, right, and before that I used to order diapers, and I used to like run around for diapers at the last moment, right? And thanks to quick commerce today, I don't have to do that. So identifying certain use cases is very important, and then uh, ensuring that your bottom customers, right, who are not ordering so frequently with you, do that.
Well, I believe that answers your question. Any more questions from the audience?
Yeah,
We do have a minute to spare.
Yes. So my question is to Moha from Tata Click. You mentioned that you right now have shifted through retention model. So not just acquiring new users, but working more with existing clients to make like more to show them other products. And question: how do you differ? And how do you split the marketing budget from acquisition to retargeting? Is it like 70-30, or like what's the percentage here? Approximately, if you can say.
Another
Thank you.
secret sauce to be
Or
revealed.
maybe how to be. Thank you.
So simply put, as an organization, we believe in growing, and very honestly, we believe in growing very sustainably and profitably. So we still spend more money on acquisition because finding that user is really difficult. It's not easy to find that user. And the more defined we get in our targeting, the more expensive it gets to find that user. So the lion's share of pie still goes towards acquiring customers. But once they are in the ecosystem, then we have first-party data, and we're able to leverage first-party data with CRM, with retention tools, etc., with a lot of analytics and consumer behavior to sort of go after them basis what they've bought, sort of almost predicting what could be their next purchase, what could be other associated categories that they're interested in, cross-sell, upsell, etc. So simply put, while retention is a huge focus of the organization, we don't really spend or overinvest on retention. We're still spending money to acquire the customer. Marketing dollars are for acquisition. Retention through customer lifecycle management tools, CRM, etc., and certain differential discounting strategies is what we are driving retention. So the idea is not to overinvest and overspend on retention because your customer is already in the ecosystem. It would not make good business sense for us then.
Well, due to the paucity of time, that will be all for the questions we'll be taking as of now. Thank you very much. Surbhi, Shreyansh, Mahua, and Matre, thank you very much for this